Okay. I have stories to tell. Let me tell you why I will no longer consider booking a hostel. The first time I experienced staying at a hostel was maybe 3 years ago when I was doing my 3-week tour throughout Panama. And I went to El Valle. And I'm a budget traveler. Yes, but there are limits. So I was in El Valle in a quaint little hostel. I mean, the front. First of all, I think hostels are for young people. So when I got in there, they had like 11 people. Thank God they give me a bottom bunk. But trying to use the bathroom and people coming in at all hours and the noise, light on, light off, was annoying. And then, thank God I only had 2 nights. It was like, and then what did me in, I think I bought like a bag of plantain chips. And I didn't finish it all, and I put it in my bag, and I woke up the next day, roaches everywhere. So it was like, okay, I don't do critters. So I said, I'll never do another hostel. This was the first time I didn't understand the concept of it. So I said, you know what? And then, all the kids with the backpacks, and the backpacks are on the floor, BO, body odor. And I'm like, okay, with the laundry. So I said I would never do that again. Move forward to this year. This year, I decided maybe 3 weeks ago to go to Antigua, Guatemala, which is where I came from. And in reading all the reviews about how wonderful Semana Santa was, it was like you had to have booked your hotel like months in advance, like we do in Las Tablas, for Carnival. But I was like, I booked my flight. I had a good deal with a 25% discount. Then I started looking for lodging, and I could not find anything in my budget. The only thing I could find were hotel rooms that were like $400-$500 a night. And come on, I am not independently wealthy. I do not have that kind of money. I said, I cannot. So the only thing I could find, all the average budget hotels were booked, of course, because Semana Santa, you've seen the pictures, it is huge. The place gets bombed with people. The only thing I could find was a hostel, Hostel Antigua. I'm like, oh, okay, it's got the name of the place. And when I saw it, it says, they have some private rooms, because I stayed at a little place in Chitre like that. It's called itself a hostel, but I was able to get a private room with a private bathroom. Also, when I went to, what is that beach area? But anyway, they did not have any more private rooms. So they said, it's going to be a room with 6 people. And I was like, okay, coming from 11, my first experience, 6 won't be too bad. And I really, really wanted to go to Antigua. So I booked it. Wouldn't you know, when the confirmation came, it said, please note, it's not a private room, and you're going to have 11 people in there. And I was like, oh, that's not going to be good. Because I got flashback from my experience in El Valle, and I said, oh, that's going to be bad. But I was like, I didn't have an option, so I went. So when I got in there, thank God again, they gave me a bottom bunk. And then as I walked in, there was a guy sitting in the bunk bed across from mine. And I was like, hi. Oh, I said, oh, we have a man. And this lady said, yep, it's co-ed. I'm like, oh my goodness. The only good thing is that on the back of it, they had women's room and they had one room for the guys. We don't want to get into conversations about, bathroom and all that. So that was good. But still, that's 10 ladies to use one bathroom. No bueno. So the bed was hard. And of course, you got these little curtains, to pull for privacy. And that night, between people coming in, flipping the light, putting the light down, and they have a little pillow that's about this big. I sleep with 2 pillows and my neck ring, which I always bring with me. But I could not get comfortable. I pushed myself all the way to the back, the back of the bunk bed, and I sat there. And then, my hips started hurting. I'm turning this way, that way. Not for old people. So I spent the first night, I could not sleep a wink. I did not sleep an hour. I did not sleep 30 minutes. Okay. Now I know I'm a night owl here in my house. Sometimes I only have like 3 hours of sleep, but 3 hours is better than 0. So the next day, got a cup of coffee, woke myself up, walked around, I was okay. The other bad thing was the guy across the bed from me snored loudly all night long. Now, I was married for like 30-some years, and I think my husband did snore at some point. But, if you had another room in the house, you could go, you sent him to go to the room. I don't remember how we handled it, but it wasn't a major issue. That guy was right maybe 3 feet from me all night long. No bueno. And then you had to kind of wait your turn to go use the bathroom. And sister is of a certain age. Sometimes there might be some little noises that need to be made, but you can't. You can't. So it's almost like you're planning to go to a coffee shop or something where you can use the bathroom by yourself. I know it's TMI, right? Night number 2, same thing. Light on, light off. And there were like a couple of French girls speaking French, which was fun. But they would have their own little light and they would be zipping, unzipping, zipping, unzipping. And they had some what do they call that? When you can put your stuff in there with the key. Lockers. They had some lockers that was right behind where my head is, and everybody that comes in, click, click, click. Same thing. And then you're using a bathroom that 10 women or 10 women are using, you're like, do I have my wipes, the toilet, and oh my God. Second night, no sleep, tossing, turning, snoring. And when I woke up the next day, I said, if I don't do something, I'm going to get sick here. Because, we are vintage. Sleep is crucial. Even though I don't sleep a lot of hours, but I need my 3 and 4 hours. And when you don't get it, your immune system goes down, and that's when you get sick. And I know better than that. So I said, okay, I can stay here 3 more nights, and they're probably going to drag me out of here on a stretcher. No bueno. No, not going to do it. So what I did, because I got there on Thursday. Friday was the big day, for the processions. And then a lot of people had gone back. So I knew I had a higher chance of getting a hotel room. And I didn't, hotels, I wasn't really looking, because, I'm on a budget. So I didn't want to pay more than $100 a night for what I was looking for. And finally, I found a house with a private bathroom. The house used to be an antique store that they kind of retrofitted, and it was quiet, it was clean. And that night, I slept like a log because my body needed to heal using my own bathroom, making how much noise I wanted. I'm sorry, TMI. But I come from a family where there was a lot of air. I know you know what I mean. My grandmother used to walk around just popping. It was no biggie. But I know I can't do that here or where I was. Oh my God. Moral of the story is, if you've never used a hostel, don't. If you are old and you like privacy and you want to use the bathroom by yourself, stay in a hotel if you can. But when you go to these smaller communities and you traveling, they may not have the accommodation that you used to. That was the thing that got me off the Peace Corps. That was the main thing, having to use it at house. My brain, my heart, my emotions could not get wrapped around that. And I met this couple, you know, they're not from my shade of color, and they're like, oh, we go, what do you say? They go hiking and do all this stuff in the woods. I am not a woods kind of person. I don't hike. I don't do any of that because I don't like nature. I don't like bugs. So know thyself. So for me, no bueno, no mass hostels, because I like my little comfort. And I'm not bougie. It's not being bougie. It's just that mentally I can't handle that higher level of discomfort where too many people touching the toilet, and I don't like that. I'm a loner, you know, I'm an introvert, you know, who wants to be among all these people privately? You know, I go behind that little curtain and undress, dress, So I was so thankful I was able to find I don't know, it's not a, they call it, it was called Posada San Sebastian. And you know what? There were so many posadas in that town. There must be a name, what that posada means. But, so now the problem I could tell was that in my situation, I was stuck because I had already made my airline reservation. So I think that was what the issue was. So now my lesson learned is that I need to look for accommodations first, especially if I'm going to a big city. Make sure I have the accommodation first and then book my flight. Reverse, reverse, reverse. So, you know, I'm always giving you some tips. Just like the tip I said, bring your e-cedula, not just your passport. Otherwise, you might have to do dishes. I might have to cook. But, oh my God, I was so upset. And you know, you kind of feel out of sort. I don't know about you. When I don't sleep, I just feel bad. Oh, posada is a Spanish word for inn, I-N-N. Oh, a guest house. Who knew? I just learned a Spanish word, posada. Posada and then somebody's name. So it's so-and-so inn. Ah, look at that. You're learning something from me today. We're learning lodging or inn. I like it. There were a lot of them in Antigua. And that place, I mean, it's a beautiful place. And I'll do another video about it. Antigua itself. Then we went to the lake. That's another video. We're going to have a video about the Mayan culture and corn that I learned. It's like, wow. And we did a tour of honey. They were like super interesting. So I am an avid learner. I'm curious. I love to learn about different cultures, and the Mayan culture definitely is one of my favorite that I had done. So I know I hadn't gone on a trip since last February, I think, so I was due. So I'm grateful to God that I got to do that. But remember, when you're traveling, you need to be open-minded, but at the same time, if you need to spend a bit more money for your comfort, that's what I did. I was like, this is not going to work. I need to feel comfortable. And that little inn was cool. The people were like, not as friendly as I was expecting. And I did that with the review, but I don't think it's going to mean anything. No importa. It doesn't matter. All right, guys. So, you know, I'm always full of stories, but that was my hostel story, and I am sticking with it. No mass hostels. Let me see how they call it, because I know I stayed at that one. The hostel that I stayed on in Pedasi, and then in Chitre, even though they were hostels, but I was lucky to get a private room, and that's what I need to shoot for. I can't stay in a hostel, but if they don't have a private bath, that's my bottom line. No bueno. Hasta hostel in Spanish, they call it posada too? Albergue. Ooh, okay. El hostal. Yeah, I think they call it hostal. That's what they call it in Anchitre and also in Percy. So, yeah, that's my bottom line. Gotta have a private room, gotta have a bathroom. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Au revoir. Bye.